All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you guys for joining us today. We're just going to give an overview of the CARES Rent Relief Program and answer some questions that people might have. So we do ask that you guys stay on mute throughout the presentation and have your video off. We are going to be recording this, and we will also be streaming it live to our Facebook. So we just ask that people keep their videos off. But we have today with us, we've got Devin Getz from Auberly, who's going to be talking to us about a quick overview of the program and Auberly's role throughout the process. And then we have Anna Hudson, who is a resource navigator at the Human Services Center, and she will be talking to us with a little bit more detail about the application process and how to kind of get your application in, and can even walk you through the process. So I'm going to go ahead and
I had a question, ma'am, Elizabeth.
Yes.
Yes. Is our names going to be posted on Facebook? You talked about Facebook. Is our names going to be posted on Facebook?
It'll just be the speaker view, so it shouldn't be on there.
What do you mean?
The person speaking should be on there.
Okay, got you. And how long is this?
It's going to be an hour.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
So no problem. And then you guys, if you have questions throughout, please just put your questions in the chat and we will get to them as we go. But we are going to go ahead and get started. So Devin, if you want to introduce yourself and take it away. Devin, are you there?
Hey, I am. I'm sorry. I couldn't get off of mute and I can't get my video to work now, so I apologize. So my name is Devin Getz. I am with Auberly. I am the Deputy Director of Housing for Auberly, and we are working on a portion of the CARES program. Hi. So our part of the CARES program, as you can see here, are all of the criteria for individuals to qualify for the CARES program. So we are assisting with the application process. As individuals come in and submit their applications, then we do the next part of the application. We are working with individuals as the applications come in. Then we start to put the packages together. We make sure that everything is together, verify all of the information, both from the tenant side and from the landlord side, just to make sure that everything is all together and that everything is accurate. We put all of the information through the system after verifying everything. We verify the lease, we verify how far behind someone is. We also verify property ownership. And then whenever we're done, we submit the package for payment. When the package is submitted for payment, it then goes to a final approval process, and then the payment is generated and the payment goes to the landlord. At the same time, the tenant should be notified that the payment has gone. The tenant is notified by a letter, so it might be a little bit of a delay with their notification, but everyone will be notified that the payment is made. When we are taking applications, we are reviewing individual household budgets. So we're working with individuals on their budget in order to make sure that everything comes together at the end. Discuss some opportunities that maybe individuals and households didn't know about. So some families may not be aware of ways to save on prescription medication or food or any other programs that are going on. There's also a number of after school programs that are online that are free. So we're really providing all of those resources to a family, making sure that their budget works out, and then discussing any opportunities for the future and making sure that the whole situation comes together. And then we also at that point discuss any utilities that are behind. The utilities that are able to get assistance are gas, electric, and internet. The internet, because individuals are in school, and children are in school, so we know that that's something that's vital. If individuals are behind on several months of utilities, then what we ask is that a printout is provided for all of the back utilities. So you can either go onto your utility company's website and provide a printout of that information, or you can provide any of the past bills, just so that we can see how much was due each month. And then we make the payment based off of whatever pay program the individual was on. So for example, if you were on the budget for the gas program and your gas is behind, and your gas may have only been, $13 for summer months, but you were on a budget and it was a little more than that, say maybe $100, then we would make the budget payment just to keep you on that budget plan. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Devin. All right, so we are going to go ahead and have Anna, who is our resource navigator at the Human Services Center. She's going to go ahead and talk to you about the application process and some more about specific qualifications.
Hi, everybody. My name is Anna. I'm a resource navigator, and that means I try to help people navigate these types of resources. So, as you can see on your screen, there's a list of eligibility requirements, and you can see the income amounts. But also some of the other things besides the income amounts is that you need to qualify by having lost your job or lost at least 30% of your income since March 1st. And they will be using your income from January to March to show that there has been a change. If you've lost your job, say in April, you'll be providing pay stubs that show the difference. You need to be at least 30 days behind on rent. So the way we have taken that is to mean if you have not paid your September rent, you can apply at the beginning of September. And this program applications are only being taken through September 30th. The payments are up to $1,500 in rent and up to $200 in utilities. And you've heard a little bit about how the utility money works. You can do these applications online or by fax or by mail. Online is the quickest and easiest, but not everybody has access to submit documents or do an online application. So you can use those other options. Elizabeth, I'm going to share my screen now, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, let me stop. All right, Anna, you should be able to go ahead.
Okay, give me a second now. Is it working?
Not yet.
Okay.
There we go.
There we go. Okay, so this is what the application looks like online. And it's similar when you do it by fax or mail if you have a printed copy. So it's pretty basic at the beginning. How did you hear about the program? It drops down and gives you options. You're always welcome to mark none. And then is someone helping you with the program? And it drops down, and there are the agencies who are officially helping people submit applications for the CARES rent relief. But you can also, there's a spot down here for other, where you can mark if, say, an interpreter or someone in a neighborhood agency, as anyone that's helping you, if you'd like to do that. And if you say someone is helping you, you do need to provide their name, email, and phone number if that is possible. Again, basic information of your first name, last name, and then your address. Make sure that you are putting any apartment numbers, floor numbers, if that's part of your address. City, state, zip code, and county needs to be Allegheny County to use this application. No, yes, it does. And then to verify address, all that does is that checks that with the zip code and your street number to make sure everything is exactly right. And that does help Action Housing with processing if you're able to click the verify, and they can go, it goes through their database and checks the address to see if it's an address that they're aware of, and that makes life a little easier. So then you need to provide your social security number, your lease effective dates. I know many of us are long past the date of our 1 year or 2 year lease, and we therefore are on month to month. You do need to put your move-in date. So on your original lease, what was that original date? You need to put that. And then the to date, for the to date, you would take that original date, say it was January 3rd, 2019. You would then put next month, October 3rd, 2020. So just make it as if it is a month to month, and your next date of the lease would be next month, same date as your move-in date. The number of permanent household residents, phone number, email address, if you have an email address, your amount of monthly rent, and then the amount of late or missed rent. And the trick I use for computing this is, say I owe April, May, June, July, August, and September, and you can apply for up to 6 months worth of rent, then you would add up all the months for those, all the rent for those months. If you owe a partial amount, make sure you're only adding in the partial amount for the month that you owe partial payments. So say I still owe $200 for April, I count April's rent as $200 and everything else at the full amount. The following information is strictly voluntary. You can provide it if you like, and you do not have to provide it. And it asks for your sex, ethnicity, and race. And the government uses this to track certain programs and monitor compliance with programs. And next it asks if you have a written or oral lease agreement with your landlord. The answer to this always should be yes. Even if you're past your lease date, then you have an oral agreement with your landlord. And by providing the documentation, you'll be showing that. And when I get done, I'll tell you what all those documents are. Next, it's going to ask if you've provided the lease. Well, you haven't provided it yet, but I'm going to show you at the end where you can upload documents. Or if you need to, you could fax documents or email documents as follow-up. So this is where you do want to mark yes, because you always want to submit all your documents with your application. And then you need to mark whether you attest. Excuse me, I just scrolled really fast there and I lost myself. Okay, I'm back where I started. So now you asked you to attest that you will continue to occupy the residence for every month which they might pay for your rent. So if they're paying your rent, you need to be living there. It asks next if the payments are split between more than one lessee. You can mark yes on this if 2 people are paying toward rent. To get the full amount of rent, both parties would need to apply. If it's 3 people, then 3 people would need to apply, and each would apply for their portion. And you will need to put the amount in here, although the first name of the person on this application would automatically be uploaded in those bars when you type them in at the top. So you're not retyping everything. It's going to ask you if you become unemployed after March 1st. If you are still working, but working at a reduced number of hours, you want to mark no. And if you mark yes, you are no longer working at the original job you had before March 1st. You want to put the exact date of separation from your employer. So that would be the last date that you worked at that job. Have your work hours or wages been reduced? It may be a case where you had more than one job and you were separated from one job and work hours reduced at another. So the answer to both these questions may be yes. Just be very clear in if you have lost a job and are not working, thus you did become unemployed. And then you will need to be providing documentation for all sources of income. So you're going to want to mark yes on this and provide the documents when you do the application. Again, I will tell you what those documents are when I'm done. You will want to provide documentation if you received any kind of letter from unemployment, whether that you qualify or do not qualify. So if you are able to provide those documents, mark yes. And then you do need to agree to provide updated income documentation to the CARES Assistance Program, because you may be applying for rent going forward. If you are behind on your rent and you applied for August and September, well, you can apply for up to 6 months all the way through December. So you may be applying for some months going forward. And I would suggest applying for the full number of months up until December, so that if you are not working still, there is a chance that your rent may be paid through this program. Even if you are approved for past rent, it is not a guarantee that you will get future rent. But if the funds are available and you've applied for them, your rent may be paid if you continue to be unemployed or have lost at least 30% of your income. So that is why you want to agree to provide the updated income documentation. Say you go back to work or your hours increase or decrease, you want to provide the income documentation each month to Action Housing so that they know, yes, this person still qualifies, no, this person no longer qualifies. The next statement, just you are attesting that you understand knowingly providing a false statement is considered a misdemeanor, and if you're convicted, you could be fined. And then you authorize the county to work with all the many agencies that are working together to make this program work. So you need to do that to be able to apply. And then you would click, I am not a robot, and then you would click Save and Upload Documents. So now I'm going to show you another screen, and Elizabeth, tell me if you can see the next screen that I'm sharing.
Yep, we can see that.
Okay, so this is the screen you would get if you clicked Save and Upload Documents. So, and this is a chance for you to upload all the documents that are going to be needed. And let me go over those now. So you will need a copy of your ID. You will need a utility bill. You need, as we spoke about, unemployment documentation. So if you received any kind of letter verification of eligibility or ineligibility from unemployment, you want to provide that. You want to provide your pay stubs from January to now. And the reason I say so many pay stubs is you want to provide them January to when you stopped working. But if you happen to still be working at a reduced number of hours or income, or maybe got another job, you're going to need to provide those two to show that you continue to be eligible. So that's a lot of pay stubs, January to now. And then a copy of your lease. And there is a landlord application that needs to be submitted. So make sure that your landlord is submitting an application. The agencies that are helping people apply can also help the landlords with the application. Theirs is even simpler than the tenant application. So I've been telling landlords, don't be discouraged. Yours is very simple. I've even done it on the phone with a landlord to get it in and get it done more quickly. They do not need to provide nearly as many documents, but we do need to have a completed landlord application for your application to be complete. So let me talk a little bit about ways you can get the documents uploaded. I have had people take pictures of documents. I have had people upload documents, scan documents, take screenshots of documents. I have had people pull up documents on their phone and have somebody take a picture with somebody else take a picture with their phone, so that you then have a copy of that document. Whatever it takes to get the documents. If the only way you can get documents is by paper, don't be discouraged, because you can fax those or email them. to Action Housing as a follow-up. Now, I can't, because I don't have an active application, show you what will happen when I add all the documents and the last screen you will get, but each time you want to add a document, you click Add Document, and it will let you choose the file. And it's going to ask you what type of file is it? Is it income, address verification, or you can mark other and explain what it is. And then once you are done uploading documents, you're going to say, I have completed uploading documents, and click Submit. I am not going to click Submit because I had to put a lot of fake information in here to get this to work so that I could show you this screen. But when you click Submit, you will get a new screen that has a phone number and email for Action Housing and your application number. Your application number will always start with R for renter. So you want to keep that number, because as you follow up with different agencies about your application, they're going to be using that application number to make it a little easier for them to track who's who. So when we talk about pay stubs, I want to go back to that real quickly. If you have paper pay stubs and take pictures, or electronic pay stubs and you can upload those, that's great, but some people don't. You can also use your bank statement if it shows direct deposit from your employer. If you're using a pay card, if that pay card shows your name on the screen and your employer's name with the amount of the deposit, pictures of that or screenshots of that will work. If it does not, I recently had somebody who took a picture of her pay card because it showed the pay card number, and that way every time she submitted a copy of the pay card records, again, her pay card number was on those records, even though her name was, so they could be linked to her. So we're finding some ingenious ways to get the documents that can be really hard to get during these times. It's hard to get pay stubs when your employer is closed down. So that's what the agencies like the Human Services Center are doing, is trying to help people find those ways to get documents and make the application process a little easier. So I believe that's everything I needed to cover. Elizabeth, is there anything else you think I should be covering?
There are a few questions in the chat if we want to go
Okay.
through.
Yes, go ahead. Are you going to read them out, or?
Yeah, I can read them out.
Okay. I'm going to take away my screens. Okay.
Okay, you can just do stop share at the top.
Okay.
And
Okay,
I
there
can
it is.
share our flyer again.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
All right. So the first question is, for individuals that own a home and lost 30% of income, are they eligible for help with utilities?
Do you want me to answer that?
Yes.
We have been told no, that this program, we tried that and we're told no, that homeowners could not apply for the utility money. If you are a renter and you're not behind on your rent, you can use this process to apply for the utility portion, but homeowners do not qualify. There is a program through the Pennsylvania, it's the PFHA, I believe. Let me look it up here. PHFA.org. PHFA.org. There's a mortgage assistance program. And I do not know whether there's any utility money through that or not. It probably depends on the county you're in and how they're running that program.
All right. How do I find out the status of my application, and how do I include my internet and utilities if the bill was not included with the application?
Elizabeth, I can take that.
All
So
right.
if your utilities were not included with the application, then again, whenever we call you to verify all of the information, then we will ask at that time if you are behind on your utilities. And we also will be asking for copies of those utilities, and we'll be doing a budget. So we will have that discussion about your utilities at that time. And then that information can be sent to our agency, or if it doesn't come to our agencies, there's actually 3 of us. So it's Oberly, Community Human Services, and then also the Urban League. So any one of us would be asking you for that information.
Thanks, Devin. Are you able to accept picture documents?
Yes, most documents that I have had that are images we can accept. There are occasions when that document is an online picture that it doesn't work, but if you're working with someone to fill out the application, they'll look at that before they submit it and make sure that it does work. And if you submit something, they will let you know that they can't see it. But yes, any kind of image we've been able to use.
Okay. Do you accept oral lease agreements?
We can accept oral lease agreements, and what we would do again is verify the information with the tenant and then also verify the information with the landlord. At that point in time, it gets a little confusing if what the 2 parties say are different, but we can accept oral leases.
All right. If done by phone, how do you submit the documents? I think that would go back to being able to upload photos if you have that, if you have to do it through your phone.
Yes, and if you can't upload for some reason through your phone, again, they could be emailed or faxed, and when you hit that submit button, you will be given an email address. Always make sure you use that application number that I mentioned with the R in front of it.
All right. You said to get the full amount, all housemates must apply. So if only one of you lost a job due to the pandemic, then you are the only one who can apply, and the most you can get is your share of the rent. Is this true? Also, I'm getting unemployment benefits, which I included in my application. Given that I included that in my original application, do I need to keep sending them updates about that income?
So we won't ask for, well, up until the application happens and is processed, that's whenever we'll continue to ask for verification. So when it gets to our level, we might ask for additional verification and information, but also consider in a lease when you have the terms of the lease and who makes the payments kind of depends on how you all live there together. So if you have 3 people that live there together that are roommates, then what was said earlier is true. You each would pay what you would say is your portion. If you have individuals that, 2 adults that live together that are in a relationship of some kind, then you probably split all of your bills and you may not have necessarily a portion. So you might not have a specific portion that you pay, and your lease also might not define what specific portion you pay. So it depends on the agreement that you have with the people that you live with and the agreement that you have with your landlord. I can only see part of what you wrote, Timothy, so I apologize. I do see that you say that you have your specific, okay, you have your portions, but it's not on the lease. Then, that kind of needs to be, and then it's not a formal agreement between you and your landlord. It's a formal agreement between you and the people that you live with. So in that case, it really kind of depends. And I would put in the request for I would have a conversation whenever it gets to the next level with the person about what it is that your portion is.
All right. And then I'm seeing a lot of questions about if you have applied and haven't heard back, how can you check the status, or just how do you find the status? So we have been told to direct people to Action Housing in order to find that out. I will go ahead and put their phone number in the chat here for you guys. Just be aware that they have been very busy and overwhelmed, so they might not be getting back to you as soon as possible, but they will be able to tell you the status of your application.
So Elizabeth, I do want to say that because of the nature of the application, because there were so many applications that came in because this pandemic really affected so many people. And in addition to that, we really are trying to gather information and documents from both parties. For example, the landlords are required to provide a W-9. So just explaining that and working through with landlords to get that information. And also landlords need to provide either a canceled check or something from their bank in order to receive our electronic payments. It just takes a little bit of time. So once we have all of the documents together and after you come up on the list, then the applications are in processing. Also, the CDC issued some guidance for individuals on evictions. So even though the eviction moratorium was not continued, then the CDC has also released some guidelines where if your income was affected by COVID and you have applied for CARES, then your landlord should not be evicting you. And if you need assistance with that, then I can make sure that, Elizabeth, you have the documentation about how to fill out the form that goes along with that. But if it comes up to a judge, then it would be pretty simple to be able to say that your income was affected and to provide your application number for the CARES program. I do know that things are backed up, and unfortunately, if a landlord hasn't gotten their money since March, I mean, that could really affect their ability to continue to make payments on other things. For example, if a landlord is paying all the utilities on a property, they're still required to keep the utilities on, even though they might not be getting rent payments. And that can make a pretty big hardship for a landlord. So we really do understand that we want these payments to go out as soon as possible so that you can get the money as soon as possible. And we are working through them. There is a backlog, so I do apologize. But by all means, contact whoever over at Action Housing, or even work together with that second level agency that is asking you for additional documentation. They should know where your application is in processing and let you know if it's reached the point where all of the documents have been gathered, and then it can move forward to be proposed for payment.
Hey, Elizabeth, could I interject something? Thank you, Devin, for Elizabeth.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, so Devin, actually, thank you for explaining about the more than one person paying on the rent, because I actually understand it a little better even now that you've explained it. But I did want to say that if you say you are a couple and normally you split the rent, but one person has lost but it's not officially on the lease, it's an agreement between the two of you. If one person has lost their job and they can't pay the portion of the rent, or other bills, the other person may be picking up the slack in other areas too, and therefore the rent is not getting paid. It is okay for one person to apply for all of the rent, even when more than one person lives in the household. If you are roommates and you split it, then, and you're only paying a portion, then yes, you need to split up the applications among the people paying the portion. However, if you're living together and paying all the expenses together, one person losing income affects payment of all bills. So one person can apply for all the rent relief.
Thank you both. And I just wanted to add too to what Devin was saying about the eviction and the CDC's guidance on that. They are asking that you submit a declaration letter just saying that you qualify for the program. So if you have applied for CARES or are going to apply for it and are at risk of being evicted, I can send out a template of what a declaration form looks like for people that are on this call. I have everyone's email, so I can go ahead and send that out after the call for you guys to have as well. And then I think we had one more question not answered in the chat. How do I update a contact number? I'm assuming that's once an application has already been submitted.
Devin, what would you suggest is the best way to do that? I've been having them email that information to Action Housing. I don't know if that you think that's appropriate.
No, I think that's probably best. We have had situations where a tenant's phone number has changed after they have applied for the program, and we were able to get in touch with the landlord to get the new phone number. So just make sure that if your phone number has changed, that if you're a landlord, that your tenant has your new number, and then if you're a tenant, your landlord has your new number. But yes, you can always send that information directly over to Action Housing. Okay, Timothy, to answer your question, you can either apply for your half of the rent, or you can apply for the entire amount. And then if you have an agreement with your other roommates where you pay half of the rent, then apply for your half. If you have an agreement with your roommates where someone pays the rent and someone else pays the utilities, or you split all of the costs of everything, then you might want to apply for all of the rent, which is which was mentioned, I believe, that you can apply for all of it, and then it can be determined by the agencies. So it depends on what your agreement with your roommates are. You can go ahead and apply for your half of the rent. That would be fine.
All right, another question. If the tenant is non-compliant to apply, can we get a paper for the judge to order for them to comply with the program? Sorry about that.
I honestly don't know the answer to that. That would be a question for a magistrate, but I can't necessarily, I don't know what comply means. Like if they're not supplying paperwork or documentation, then I mean, you can't make someone supply the documentation, but at that point, I mean, the moratorium has been lifted. If they're not applying or they're not following through, then I mean, the landlord can move forward. At this point though, it would be, so as another part of what the CDC is saying is that the eviction process, if you do go to evict right now, could take a little longer simply because they can only handle so many cases in a day now. And, just like how the schedule is going to be in due to COVID safety precautions. The client that lost his job and then started a new job should be eligible for CARES because they had the income loss for the back rent, I believe.
That's the way I understand it too, yes.
Yeah.
Just because you're working now and working at the same amount you were before doesn't mean you can't apply. If you lost your job or lost a portion of your income, even for a few months, if you have back rent, you can apply for those months.
Okay, and then we've got just an FYI from someone that works in the senator's office. There are legislators working to amend this application process and requirements due to the number of rejections of submitted applications. And yes, I can email out this flyer to everybody at the end of the webinar. Are there any other questions that people have? Is this application able to go out to other counties? So each county is actually doing theirs a little bit differently. So this is for the state of Pennsylvania is what PHFA is doing. And then they have each county doing the rental assistance program based on their terms. So these guidelines are specific to Allegheny County, but each county does have a rental assistance program. You're just going to need to look and see what those counties' guidelines are. And then the whole state as well is doing the mortgage assistance, and that is through PHFA.
Elizabeth, there's
Sorry, go ahead.
At the phfa.org website, you can print out the general document that is the PHFA document application, and that can be submitted for other counties too, but you would need to find out where you're submitting it for your county.
All right, thank you. Is it possible to contact you later since this is an ongoing issue? I believe if that means just reaching out to me with questions, you're more than welcome to do that. If you mean something else with that question, then go ahead and clarify for me. I'm having trouble fixing people's apps that are already submitted. Anna, do you have any tips on that?
I'm not sure what you mean by fixing.
All right, if we could get clarification on that.
There were a lot of apps submitted without all the documents, and so those have to be sent, those documents have to be sent in follow-up by fax or email, preferably email, or even mail. I don't know if that helps.
Something I've been running into are landlords being a bit hesitant on submitting their part of the application because of things like rent owed before March 1st or it not covering the full amount of rent. Are there any tactics to help with this?
Devin, did you want to answer or do you want me to?
I mean, I guess I can. So I also am a landlord in addition to working for an organization that is facilitating with these applications. So I get it. I mean, this is hard. This affected people really hard, and people that aren't bigger landlords, people that are just mom and pop landlords, it really is an impact on their bottom line. And truthfully, as a nonprofit, those are the people that we really reached out to and that we depend on. So we know from every side that this hurts. If an individual lost their job, if an individual did not make a payment in February, but then didn't lose their job until, COVID didn't happen until later, then they wouldn't qualify for the missed payment in February. Well, my recommendation at that point would be, though, if an individual does qualify for this program, to give them the opportunity to apply and then try and work out a payment arrangement for any other past payments. This also only covers 6 months. So if somebody missed starting in, let's say, March, that's March, April, May, June, July, and then August that would be paid. So what happens if somebody also is now missing September because they might not be back to work? Again, my advice is to work with your tenants, especially if it's a good tenant that has been there for a long time, that takes care of the property and that you genuinely want to see there. If you can work out an arrangement where maybe they pay a portion of February or September, and that is enough to get you by, or if they can take February's payment and spread it over the lease for the next 12 months, whatever it is that might work. If this is a tenant that you don't want to work with, I mean, that's a landlord's decision. But if you've been out money since February, then I would think at this particular point in time, it's kind of a no-brainer to sign up and let your tenant go through this program so that you can recoup a lot of the loss.
We've had very good luck with most landlords participating, and it are those landlords like you, Devin, who this rental income is vital to how they live their lives. Those are the ones that seem to be most willing to apply. And we have applied for some people who have rent due before March 1st, but we of course only applied for rent that was since March 1st. And these were people who lost jobs or lost income after March 1st. So it is possible to work out those things. And we've had very good luck. We've had some landlords that are not willing to participate. And in those cases, you do not qualify, but most have.
All right, we got some clarification on the original question of where to send the missing application info, and that they were told that they have to do the app all over. Anna, do you want to speak to that a little bit? For missing documentation.
Okay, if you miss documentation, there's a way to send it and follow up, and I will put the email address. Do you think that's okay to put the email address of where to send documents?
Yeah.
And I'll put that in the chat. But if you were told by Action Housing or one of the agencies to that are working with Action Housing to do the application completely over again, then definitely comply with that, because you want to make sure everything's complete. So I am typing in the email address for Action Housing.
Thanks, Anna. And then if an individual applies for the program before September 30th, can they still provide their supporting documents after the deadline?
Yes, I believe. So so applications themselves are not being taken after September 30th, but we'll still be processing things after September 30th. So things will still be working through that whole process.
All right, we've got someone that typed, I have a question. We can answer your question if you want to type it in the chat. If there are any other questions, you guys can feel free to type them in. I do just want to say that Anna, she went through the whole application and she is able to do that with anybody on this call. So if anybody wants help applying for it, Anna is more than happy to walk you through that process and do the application for you. You can go ahead and just give us a call at our number that's listed on this flyer, the 412-436-9537. And I know that there are also a lot of other providers throughout the county that are working to help people with applications. So we are just one of them. I know there are some on this call that are doing it as well. I just want to make sure everyone's aware that you don't have to do this application by yourself, and we are here to help to make sure that you get all the documentation you need so that you don't have to be going back and forth.
Elizabeth, I made a mistake when I typed in the Action Housing email, so check the chat two down from it. I missed a letter, so use that at AHI Cares with the S, RRP.
Great, thank you, Anna. And then, so we've got a question about being laid off in December, but then with having kids home since March, not being able to work. So would that qualify?
The way I understand it is that you would not qualify because you did not have income from a job from January through March. The people who are able to apply in that way is if you had seasonal work, say you worked at the stadium and your job didn't usually start until March, and you can show the income you would normally have had last year, then you might be able to qualify. But if you have not worked, unfortunately for this program, Devin, please correct me if I'm wrong, I do not believe you can qualify if you've not worked from January through March.
I believe that to be correct.
And then I will say, if you have any other questions, feel free to keep them coming. But I will go ahead and share, we do have another emergency assistance program. So that may be something that can be helpful for people that do not qualify for this program. So I will just put that information up for you. All right, so that's the information on emergency assistance. So for anyone that has different situations where they may not qualify for this program, or they are on Social Security or a fixed income of some sort, and so they didn't have a reduction in income, things like that, that would eliminate you from the CARES one. You may be able to apply for this one. And again, you can go ahead and give us a call at that same number listed there. Do we have any other questions?
Elizabeth, I also want to say, if you I think it's Bree, I'm sorry, who asked the question about being laid off in December. If you are having problems with your rent, this isn't the only program out there. This is the only COVID related program out there. If you have missed rent payments, you should be contacting 211, or you should look up the number for Allegheny County Link, and you should contact both of them. Let them both know that you are behind on your rent and what the circumstances are. And there are other programs that are available that can assist you. The Allegheny County Link number, I'm sorry, I'll find it in 1 second, is 1-866-730-2368. And if you call 211, they'll give you that information also. But contact them. There are other programs, and I'm not going to say that for sure that you'll qualify, but there's a possibility that you could qualify. This is not the only program that can help you with rental assistance.
And if there are any other more specific questions that are specific to somebody's situation, again, feel free to give us a call at our number listed, and we can help direct you in the right direction. If it's not necessarily this program, we can connect you to others that are available. So Bree, again, this emergency assistance might be a good option for you. So I will go ahead and take a look at that. Are there any other questions? So the emergency assistance information is the screen that I'm sharing right now, but I will also be sending this one out in the follow-up email. So as long as you have registered with your email address, I will be sending out the flyer for the CARES program, the emergency assistance flyer, and as well as other rental assistance resources available out there. All right. Well, it sounds like we don't have any more questions. So thank you guys so much for tuning in today. We hope that this helped. Thank you to Devin and Anna for presenting today. And again, feel free to reach out if there are more specific questions. You guys should have my email address, or you have our phone number. So feel free to reach out with anything. And I hope you guys have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Thanks, Devin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a
And
lot.
thank you, everybody, for being here.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.